Thinking about moving to Bozeman, Montana? Maybe you've read the headlines, you've seen all the stories and articles about how it's such a great place to live or retire, how we've got some of the best skiing, as well as all of that outdoor adventure, and all of those additional reasons why you should live or move here. But Bozeman is not the only place to consider. Right outside of Bozeman, we have Belgrade, Montana. It's a smaller community with tons of that small town charm, and it is growing right alongside of Bozeman. Not to be forgotten, of course, are the other small towns just outside of Bozeman and Belgrade. Of course, to the west, we have Manhattan and then Three Forks, and to the east, we have Livingston. But today, I'm going to be going into those similarities and differences between Bozeman and Belgrade so you can decide which one might be right for you. Belgrade and Bozeman may be only about 10 miles apart, but there are quite a few differences, not just in size. And many people do consider both when they're looking to move to the Gallatin Valley. As Bozeman has grown quite rapidly, Belgrade has been seeing some similar growth, just not quite to the same degree as Bozeman. Now, obviously, as I've mentioned, it goes without saying that Bozeman is going to be bigger than Belgrade. The population in Bozeman has now surpassed 50,000, where Belgrade is probably closer to about 13,000. And with that, of course, comes some differences. Now, the Gallatin Valley as a whole is a truly special place. It's a thriving community overall, surrounded by mountains and rivers and the growing Montana State University right there in Bozeman. Tourist destinations all around us, with Yellowstone National Park about an hour and a half to 2 hours south of Bozeman as well, and so is often rated one of the best places to live. My name is Hallie with Life in Bozeman, Montana. This channel is all about living in and around Bozeman, Montana, and those surrounding areas here all over Southwest Montana. Now, assuming that you know some of the things about Bozeman and Belgrade in general, let's dive into some of those specific differences and similarities. First of all, as I mentioned, Belgrade is about 10 miles away from Bozeman, so on Interstate 90, it's about a 10-minute drive. Belgrade has always been seen as sort of a bedroom community to Bozeman, with rent and purchase prices for homes in the Belgrade area being significantly less than what you're going to find in Bozeman, which I will touch on more specifically here in just a little bit. So there does tend to be some commuter traffic between Bozeman and Belgrade. Typically, that's going to be people who live in the Belgrade area and commute to Bozeman for work or for entertainment, dining, to go to an MSU football game, whatever that may be. Now, on the contrary, in the Belgrade area, that's where you're going to find the Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport. So there is a lot of back and forth between the two, but for the most part, that commuter traffic is going to be in the mornings coming from Belgrade to Bozeman, and in the evenings headed back to Belgrade. So as far as things to do, Bozeman is where it's at for the most part. When it comes to entertainment and shopping, bookstores and shoe stores, specialty clothing, movie theaters, bowling, an MSU game, and a wide variety of dining. Most of what you're looking for you can find in Bozeman, with far fewer options in Belgrade. Overall, Bozeman's downtown is booming. It is several blocks of amazing local shops and dining, everything from breakfast or brunch and lunch to dinner and coffee shops, and a lot of really wonderful local shops, everything from boutiques to gift shops. And now, in contrast, Belgrade's downtown is a fraction of the size. There's just not as much going on. There's some new dining and a few new little shops going on there, but it is quite a bit smaller than Bozeman's downtown. So a lot of people do head over to Bozeman for that sort of thing. All of that said, of course, Belgrade does have some pretty cool spots for dining itself, and that may be changing for the better with some new liquor laws that have actually been passed. It used to be the Bozeman and Belgrade shared liquor licenses, and so people would often use those in the Bozeman area because it's going to be where more people are and a greater population, and more people expect to head there for dining and going out for drinks and whatnot. Well, now that Belgrade has their own allotment of liquor licenses, we are anticipating seeing some new cool things happening in that downtown area. Actually, Belgrade is also home to the Gallatin Valley Speedway, which features all summer long, every single weekend, stock car races around the dirt oval track there. So you're going to see everything from stock cars all the way up to sprints. Certain weekends, not every weekend of the month are they going to have every single kind of car, but it is is great fun for absolutely everybody, the whole family. Bring ear protection because it can get a little bit loud. Belgrade, of course, also has all of the basic necessities. So you've got grocery stores, you've got a hardware store, and you've got, a variety of other convenience type things right there in Belgrade. But if you are going to be looking for bigger box store type shopping, department stores, more variety, or maybe even something really specific that you need to find locally, you're probably going to have more luck finding those little specific things, specialty things in Bozeman. Both Bozeman and Belgrade also have their own set of, seasonal or yearly events that take place. So in Bozeman, you're going to have the Christmas stroll where they shut down all of Main Street, and there's all kinds of vendors and fun things going on there. Of course, Santa makes an appearance in downtown Bozeman. And then Belgrade is going to have their Festival of the Lights, which is usually right there in the park right in the middle of town. And then in the summertime, you're going to have the art walks and several art festivals in the Bozeman area, as well as Music on Main, where they shut down Main Street again, and you've got live music there right downtown. Belgrade also has a wonderful little fall festival, but in general, there's just not quite as much going on. Bozeman is also seeing some really great newer music venues coming in, like the Elm, and several other options for, traveling or local musicians to play. So there's more events, more venues, and Bozeman and Belgrade also have some really wonderful breweries if that's the sort of thing you're interested in as well. In fact, all over the valley, there are more than I can keep up with these days. So generally, again, Bozeman is just going to have more options and more variety. So another thing to consider all over this valley when you're, debating between Bozeman and Belgrade or anywhere else is going to be education. It's going to be one of those important things to families, of course. So Bozeman has Montana State University, as I've mentioned, which continues almost every single year for the last 14 years to break enrollment records. There is a lot of Bobcat pride in Bozeman, and I would say in Belgrade as well. Also in Bozeman, the public school system is very highly rated according to websites like greatschools.org and niche.com. There are 8 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 2 high schools in the greater Bozeman area. And we're lucky to have a very strong public school system here that attracts amazing educators from all over. And the high schools, specifically in Bozeman, have seen some great improvements in recent years, from major renovations happening on the older high school that's right off of Main Street that I personally attended, to the brand new Gallatin High School over on the north side. Belgrade also has a very strong public school system. The district in Belgrade has 6 schools and 3,300 students. And one big way that Belgrade tends to come together, that small community, is through those schools. At any given sporting event for the Belgrade schools, you'll see the stands absolutely packed with locals cheering on those students. So like Bozeman, those schools in Belgrade are very highly rated according to those online resources as well. And they also have wonderful activities and clubs for the kids. So it really comes down to where you want to be. More than likely, any of those school districts that you fall into are going to be wonderful. Now, of course, if you're coming to the area to go to MSU, you may want to be closer to Bozeman. Staying in Belgrade or living in Belgrade and commuting over to Bozeman is not that big of a deal for most people. But for students, they do tend to want to stay a little bit closer and hopefully be able to be just a few blocks from campus. So something worth considering. Now, as I already mentioned, both areas, both towns are experiencing pretty significant growth. There's new developments happening all over the valley. Bozeman in particular has Creekside, which is a new luxury subdivision over on the north side with stunning views, and I actually have a video about that I recently put out if you wanted to take a peek and learn a little bit more. And then of course there's a couple of master plan communities in the Bozeman area as well, with Blackwood Groves being right there near Montana State University, with single family homes and multifamily, as well as a commercial park planned. And then there's Northwest Crossing over on the north side near that new Gallatin High School that is going to be very similarly planned to Blackwood Groves, with a great variety and different options and different types of homes there as well. That one is just getting started, whereas Blackwood Groves is a little bit further along, but both of those areas are highly anticipated to add to the housing pool in the Bozeman area. Now, Belgrade also has some new things happening with the Prescott Ranch subdivision just to the north and a little bit west of town there, which is, already in progress, and quite a bit of homes are complete and currently occupied. And then there's the new Yellowstone Airport Plaza, which has not yet begun. It is slated as a mixed-use development. airport expansion and workforce housing, as well as having great potential for some new entertainment venues and a business park. As a larger town overall, you're definitely bound to find more employment options in the Bozeman area versus Belgrade as well. There are certainly some opportunities in Belgrade, but between the outdoor companies, tech companies, and the robust healthcare system that is based out of Bozeman between Bozeman Health and Billings Clinic, and with Montana State University, overall, Bozeman is just going to have more, whether that's the quantity of jobs available or the variety of the jobs themselves. As far as healthcare goes now, with some of the additional clinics and healthcare facilities and urgent cares that have actually recently popped up in the Belgrade area, for regular care, the options are probably fairly equal. Now, if you're going to need something specialized, maybe, a surgery or a certain type of specific care or a larger emergency, you are going to find yourself headed over to Bozeman Health, where the main hospital is in the valley. It is on the east end of Bozeman, right off of the interstate, so pretty easy access there, maybe about 15 minutes from Belgrade. Now, as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest differences between the two communities as far as affordability or cost of living is going to be those home prices and rental prices. Now, before we dive into the stats and specifics on all of that, as I said, my name is Hallie. I am a born and raised Bozemanite, helping people to relocate, move, and just simply find their place here in Bozeman and those surrounding areas here all over Southwest Montana, from Bozeman to Big Sky to Ennis to Three Forks to Livingston. My email and phone are right here, or you can visit the link in the description to learn a little bit more or get in touch that way, and we can set up a one-on-one call either way. I'm here to help you find the right place for you so you can fall in love with this place the same way that I do, and I certainly wouldn't want you to end up in the wrong spot. So jot that information down and feel free to reach out. So as I mentioned earlier, Belgrade is often seen as a bedroom community to Bozeman, and for good reason. It's a much more affordable place to live overall, with rent being generally lower overall, as well as those home prices. So your money will go a lot further if you're willing to live in Belgrade and commute to Bozeman, whether it's for work or any of those other amenities that Bozeman offers. As of the end of September of 2023, the median sales price in the Bozeman area was $801,000. So that is the median price for homes sold thus far. In Belgrade, that same statistic is at $538,000. So you can see it's a pretty big difference between the two areas for that median sold price. Now, of course, Bozeman's going to have much more inventory as well, so there's going to be a wide range of options there. Bozeman currently has 346 residential properties listed for sale, with a median list price of $925,000. Belgrade, on the other hand, currently has 48 residential properties on the market, with a median list price of $611,000. Property taxes in the Belgrade area are going to be lower as well. Now, largely that is because of those lower property prices that it's based off of, but if you're outside of city limits, somewhere else in the county, those county property taxes are also going to be different than being in those city limits. So all of those things are worth considering. Now, it's also worth mentioning that there are properties outside of those city limits, out in the country or a little bit further out with some acreage or land, depending on what you're looking for. So there's an area north of both Bozeman and Belgrade, kind of between the towns and the mountain front or those foothills, where there's going to be some wonderful properties where you can find, half-acre lots, 1-acre lots, or even larger. So there's a variety of different properties and neighborhoods and all kinds of opportunities there that are going to have stunning views of the whole Gallatin Valley. And no matter, where you are up there, you're going to be just minutes from either Bozeman or Belgrade. So there's great opportunity to live just outside of town on that north side, just minutes to Bozeman or Belgrade. And actually, oftentimes when you're up in that northern portion, it's hard to tell which neighborhoods are actually considered Bozeman and which ones are considered Belgrade. It's a beautiful area up there north of town. Now, as far as that outdoor recreation that this whole valley is known for, both Bozeman and Belgrade are going to have pretty equal access to everything. So both Bozeman and Belgrade are going to have incredible mountain views and access to all of those trails and rivers and everything that this valley offers. Belgrade might be just a bit further drive to some of the local favorites, especially being a little bit north of Bozeman or northwest of Bozeman, like Highlight Canyon, which is down to the south and, headed that direction. You might not be quite as close, but an extra 5 to 10 minute drive really doesn't seem to bother anyone. And of course, as I said, to the north there, you're going to get even better Bridger views. So if you were to find a place just on the outskirts or just on the north side of Belgrade, some of those newer developments, like I said, like Prescott Ranch, for instance, you're going to have wonderful mountain views over there that you might not be able to get in Bozeman, just depending on the location. So both areas offer incredible opportunities to get outside, go skiing, go fishing. There are also a few popular fishing sites just outside of Belgrade, so it's a little bit closer there. And then just down the interstate to the west is the Missouri Headwaters State Park, which is closer to Belgrade also. So all in all, the whole valley offers great opportunity to get outside and do whatever it is that gets you excited. There's plenty of skiing, whether it's the ski areas or backcountry opportunities, rafting, fly fishing, kayaking, hunting, camping, backpacking, and so much more. Another thing people may want to consider when comparing the two towns of Bozeman and Belgrade is, traffic and different, noise kind of concerns. So Belgrade actually is where the Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport is. So you're going to get a little bit more of that sort of noise, as well as Belgrade actually has 3 separate train crossings right there in town. So every now and again, you're going to hear those trains come through, and it can actually cause a little bit of issues at times with traffic getting backed up at those crossings. So definitely something to take into consideration when you're looking at where you want to be, and if that is something that, is bothersome for you. Bozeman does have a couple of train crossings, but they are further on the north side of town and really don't affect, or impact traffic nearly as much, and you really don't hear it from downtown, for instance. So while Bozeman probably does experience more traffic overall than Belgrade does, because, it's a larger town, you're going to see those rush hours in the morning and the afternoon or evening from about 4 to 6 p.m. Bozeman is probably going to be a little bit tougher to deal with that. You're also not going to have those 3 train crossings and some of that noise. So Belgrade tends to be, not the quietest town. And with Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport being the busiest airport in the state, those flight paths are also something to consider. So there's a bit of a difference between the two towns there for sure. And Bozeman and Belgrade certainly have their own unique characteristics to take into consideration. With fewer people in a smaller town, Belgrade has kept a deep sense of community. You're more likely to run into a familiar face when you're shopping at the grocery store or driving around town. It's a quieter, or rather calmer town, and the people of Belgrade are looking at the growth in the area as a way to redefine itself and invest in the community while holding on to those small town roots. Not everyone chooses to live in Belgrade just because it's more affordable. A lot of people choose to live there for its character and for that smaller town feel. But that's not to say that Bozeman has lost all of its charm. It's a special place surrounded by mountains, and there are still a few of us locals living here and still calling it one of the best places to live. The people are friendly and welcoming. Just don't tell them that you've moved here from out of state. You might get a slightly different response with that, especially in online forums, but generally speaking, when you walk into a local shop or run into somebody at the grocery store, everyone is generally friendly and welcoming, and we all just share in that love for this beautiful place. Some just tend to be a little bit protective of this beautiful place because we all love it so much. And with that, of course, I've got plenty of other videos covering different communities, pros and cons, all kinds of things all over Southwest Montana. So if you're curious, be sure to check those out, and of course, feel free to get in touch. I'd be honored to help you find your place here. And if you haven't yet subscribed, I do a new video every single week. So if you want the best videos about Bozeman, Belgrade, Big Sky, and all those other communities here in Southwest Montana, subscribe. Now, if you want to watch more right now, this is a playlist that is loaded with all the best videos about Bozeman, Montana, and this one is loaded with videos all about Belgrade. So you can find the area that you want to move to. There are full vlog tours, pros and cons, as well as full map videos showing you around the area that way. So you can watch and learn all about it. In fact, I recently just published a new vlog tour about Bozeman. That's in there too. And until next time, I hope to show you around.